A very good afternoon to you all, and welcome to the Accountants Breaking Barriers series. My name is Bertha Chikwati, and I'm standing in for Michael Howe, the South African chapter chairperson. Today, we have a very exciting discussion that we're going to be having with Chris Munodawafa, who is a recent chartered accountant, recently became a chartered accountant, and has a very inspiring story that most of us will definitely be inspired by. So, as we begin, I'm going to ask Chris Munodawafa to just introduce himself and tell us a bit about himself and this journey that he speaks of from working in a bakery and working as a classroom teacher, then a lecturer, and then starting off the CA journey. Welcome to Accountants Breaking Barriers, Chris. Please introduce yourself.
Uh, Thank you, Beta. My name is Chris Mnodofa, and if there's one thing that defines my journey, it is learning how to rise every time life said I shouldn't. I come from a small rural village in Wedza. We call it Mapini Mbende. That's where life was built around cattle herding, farming, discipline, survival. And my journey started when I failed my O-level exams. I didn't do well. And honestly, that time I thought my future is ended there. But that failure became the beginning of a completely different story. So after I failed my O-levels, my father asked me one question. What do you think? What do you want to do with your life? Then I said, I want to go back to school. Then my father allowed me to go repeat my O levels. I did so. I took the opportunity. I wrote my O levels again and I managed to pass all the subjects at once now. Then, because I had once failed, I thought again, let me find a job. So that's when I got my first job in a bakery in Chitungwiza. We used to call it Mwendamberi Bakery there. So at Mwendamberi Bakery, I started to work. I was working in a shift. So usually when I was a first recruit, I was working on a night shift. As I was working through that night shift, it was very difficult and hard for me. I was still young, and the pressure which came in that time, uh, bread was scarce. So because of that scarcity of that bread, we had to work long shifts, long hours. So because of that pressure, I felt what I was earning that time, it was not sufficient for myself, even for my family. Remember, my background, I came from the rural areas. So because of that now, I felt it was not enough. Then by that same time, I was taking care of my siblings and my brothers. We were still doing their O levels. So I had to assist them in their education. So I felt my income was not sufficient. It was not enough. So I tried to squeeze then. That's when I decided to go back to A level. So I went back to A level, and that time I was running a small tuck shop in Chitungwiza. Then came 2023, Muramba China. All the tuck shops were taken down by that. Then I was left with no other source of income. I had to go back home in Mavuku. That's where I finished my upper six, which is form six. After I've completed my upper six, I enrolled for CIS. I was doing CIS. As I was doing CIS, my cousin brother again, they passed with flying colors at their O levels. Then I had to start take them back to school again. So I had to take them. I started staying with them in Mavuku, where they were now doing their A levels. So that time I stopped going to school because I wanted to focus and concentrate on my brother so that they finish also their O level. So I was doing CIS, but maybe 2 or 3 modules at a time. And when they completed, they were to go, they passed again with flying colors. I remember one of the other one at 15 points and the other one at 17 points. Then I had no choice again rather than take them further to university. They started university at UZ, and then I stopped. Then that's when I started also working as a relief teacher. Most people call them temporary teachers. So I started working as a relief teacher in Mavuku, but I'll share again how I accidentally became a teacher. So I was working as a relief teacher, I managed to take my brothers to school, varsity, as they were doing their varsity. When they completed their varsity, I also now had kids, so I had to take care of my kids. So I stopped learning completely that time. I think that was 2013, 14, 15. I was just focusing now on my cousins. I was focusing on my kids then. Then that's when the dream was reignited. I went back to pursue my degree. Then I was doing a degree in education, 2016. Then whilst I was doing that degree, I started pursuing uh, uh, what to call my accounting degree with Great Zimbabwe. At the same time, then I thought again, let me finish my CIS. So I had to do those things concurrently, my education degree, my CIS, and my special honors in accounting at the same time. So it was between 2016 up to 2019. So I managed to complete all the three. And when I completed the 2021, that's when I decided to do CTA. Then I think I'll share the rest later better. I think in short, that's who Chris Mnodawafa is.
Wow, very inspiring indeed, and quite a journey. Um, at what point did you realize you actually then wanted to pursue the CAZ designation?
Okay, I think the dream became real when I saw how education and financial knowledge could completely change lives. So that time, remember, I was supporting my cousins, I was paying school fees for them, I was managing my small tax shop. Then at the bakery, I worked in the production for about 5 months. So when I was working in the production, one day one of the guys who used to work at the dispatch had a family issue, so he didn't come to work. Then my boss asked me. By that time, I was the only one of the few people who had 5 O levels, so that I can do relief for that particular post. And I was doing that post. Most people used to have shortages. Like if you're working on dispatch, usually you have shortages. So I did very well when I worked as a reliever. I think it was for 3 days. And when I was doing that, I never had any shots. So they now asked me to continue doing the same thing. And at the same time, so when I was doing that, then too, when I started my A level, I'd never done accounting before. I think only when we were Form 1s, it was one of our subjects, but we didn't have a teacher. So I only did accounting Form 1. Then later, I started it again at A level when I went back to A level. So when I did it A level, I opted for accounting, geo, and business studies. Then when I passed my A level, I remember uh, that's when the passion and deep interest in accounting started. So even though resources were limited, so while teaching accounting, I later realized I loved not only the subject itself, but also the impact it could make on the people and institutions. So the major turning point came when I was now pursuing my special honors in accounting. I had a conversation with a friend, Tawanda Kashoshe. He encouraged me to pursue CTA. At that time, it scared me because I was already now comfortable as a teacher, but something inside me knew I needed to challenge myself further, that's my decision changed. So in 2021, I decided to leave my job. I resigned as a school teacher and I started pursuing CTA full time.
Wow, interesting. And as you were going through this, did you actually envision that you would be a CA as you have just done within the past 2 months?
Um, so at that time, Beta, when I now started the journey with the CAA, you will now be interacting with people from different backgrounds. You now have access to other qualified CAs. You can see the lifestyles. You can also see what life if you see what. And I remember the friend Edson Demura, he was my tutor at A level. He migrated then to USA because he was a CA with us, Deloitte, now Ascendium. So all those things also inspired me to pursue my studies further, and I now had the desire to be a CAZ.
All right. So, and how did you experience this classroom teacher? What do you think the classroom teaching um, helped you? How did it help you even through the journey? Do you have any lessons through the teaching experience and how it shaped you to become who you are now?
Okay, thank you. Teaching transformed me completely. Growing up, I was shy, very shy, and I used to lack confidence. Why? I spoke slowly. So because from a childhood, I used to speak slowly. Ironically, teaching became the very thing that healed that insecurity. As a teacher, I learned that understanding something deeply means being able to explain it simply. So that mindset later helped me when I was studying my uh, for my CTA. It also helped me to easily appreciate and understand the technical concepts. So I became known for simplifying complex concepts because teaching trained me to communicate clearly. And also teaching also taught me patience. Teaching also taught me emotional intelligence, adaptability. So, and I later understood that every student learns differently, and that made me appreciate that leadership and mentorship require understanding people. You need to understand people, not just technical knowledge. So all those things, they helped me, or they trained me to become who I am today.
Interesting. And I really find it quite interesting to see that some of the students that you actually taught at some point are chartered accountants themselves. Can you tell us a bit more about that? And also maybe give us detail in terms of this classroom experience. Did it start from were you teaching a primary school level? Was it high school level? What exactly, at which point were you teaching?
Okay, thank you, Beta. Remember, as I mentioned, I was someone who was so shy as I was growing up. My shyness was coming from the fact that I think when I was grade 1, 2, 3, Devandine Karurimi, that isn't it? So like it was difficult for me even to pronounce some words like three. I used to say three the other way around. So because of that, then when I went to secondary school, uh, my friends used to imitate the way I used to speak. Like I'm a slow speaker. So they used to imitate. So that took away my confidence. But later on, when I finished my A level, as I said, there was one lady we used to call her My Cobra. She used to sell Cobra in my streets in Mavuku. She came at my place. Then she said, Chris, I heard you just passed your A level. Then I said, yes. So I want you to assist my kids. I want to explain how I became a teacher. So I want you to assist my kids. Then I said no, because already I knew very well I was shy. Then two, I know I was a slow speaker. So in me now, I'd accepted that I'm a very slow speaker. Then I would run away from her every time she would be coming to my place. Then I would hide, avoid her. Then one day she came, my mom was home. Then she discussed with my mom. That's when my mom said, Chris, just try. So I started assisting my Cobra's kids. I think they were 4 then. That's when I was doing my CIS partly. So as I was assisting her kids, they started doing well at school. And remember, she was a vendor. So when the kids started doing well at school, she started spreading the news. My kids are being assisted by this guy, Chris. Then people started coming to my place. I started assisting people then. That was around 2007, 8. As I was assisting people, then students started doing well at school. Then that's when Mavuka High School, then they were facing challenges. One of the days I was now assisting their A-level students. So one day I was doing assisting those kids. She went to school and there was no students in class. Then they asked, where are the students? Then they had, waenda kwa Sekiri. Then I used to be known as Sekiri. So that's when the headmaster called me. Can you come and assist our kids as a relief teacher? Then I accepted the call. And that time, my cousins, whom I was taking to school, I was not staying with them. They were learning at the same institution. So I went there. That's when I started. That was 2009, 10. So I started teaching in Mavuka as a relief teacher. But in my first year, that time we used to have what we call merit awards for someone if you have produced the highest number at A's at A level. And I break the record at that time. I had the highest number of A's in Harare. That was 2009. Then 2010, I did the same. 2013, I did the same. Then that's when the school SDC, they requested me to be a full-time teacher there. I was not yet a qualified teacher, but I was producing the highest number of. So I later discovered that the slowness I have in speaking, it made it easier for students to understand when I'm explaining concepts. So I was now comfortable. When students were passing, I became more comfortable and I began to enjoy the classroom. That's 2012. Then 2016, I later discovered that as much. That time I was teaching mainly A levels, Form 5 and 6. So when you're teaching Form 5 and 6, remember, it's someone who had already passed. So the motivation, there is already motivation there. But if you now later on I migrated to Hillbright Science College, I was now teaching from Form 1. That's when I later discovered the need to go do the qualifications. Why? Because teaching, it's an art. I later discovered teaching is an art. There is many things you need for you to be a great teacher. It just doesn't come as people think. So I will explain later if you want me to explain what are the things for someone to be a successful teacher. So by that time, that's when a lot of students, most chartered accountants, I think I have many chartered accountants, almost every stream at CTA, it will have more than 10 to 5 students whom I've taught it or at A level. Yeah.
Wow, interesting indeed. And um, shall we say thanks to my Cobra who
Yeah, yeah,
introduced
yeah,
you
yeah,
to the
yeah,
teaching
definitely.
aspect.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. She passed away though.
oh,
May
shame.
her
All
soul
right.
rest in peace. Yeah,
Uh,
but she's the one who launched Say Chris to the world.
wow, wow.
Yeah.
And talking about Miendamberi Bakery, I know this was probably more to do with trying to find your feet, trying to find survival tactics. What do you think, or what can you share with us in terms of this experience of having worked in a bakery, as this was um, your stepping stone, your first experience within your
Okay, thank you. So
professional
when
journey?
Thank you. So as I was working in Mwendamberi, I remember I said I now worked as a dispatcher. So when you are dealing with dispatch, you need to balance the accounts. And that time I was too ignorant. There are many life lessons I learned when I was working in Mwendamberi. So remember, sometimes when I feel that like maybe someone would have demanded he wants certain dozens of bread. Then they later changed that. No, we no need not much. Let's reduce the order. Then I used to cancel in the book. Then my manager told me, "You don't cancel. It means maybe you've done something. It might be fraud." And another important thing, it assisted me in terms of networking. Why networking? The owner, I used to stay in our rural areas there. So we used to have we used to play social soccer. That's when I had interaction with the owner. So when I passed my O level at first, I had just to call the guy, then, can you employ me? I need employment. So one principle, it was networking. It assisted me to get my first job. So it was just a call. Then you just tell me, go to this bakery and start the job. But I also learned another thing, which I think I can share with people here. During high demand periods like that time, around 2003, 2004, bread was on high demand. So sometimes pressure caused the mistakes, such as like someone can forget putting yeast in the dough, which resulted in poor quality bread being sold. So even after operations later improved, like later when demand slowed, um, operations improved, customers still associated the bakery with that poor quality. So that experience taught me a lifelong lesson, that pressure may explain mistake, but you will never protect your reputation. Unfortunately, that bakery closed. It's now closed. So that's why I'm explaining. Then, so the one life lesson I learned, that people remember what you delivered, not how difficult things were. And also pressure can test your discipline, your integrity and standard. So character usually, especially in our profession, is reviewed under pressure. So from my professional lesson now, when I was now pursuing my chartered accountant's journey, you now have pressures in terms of deadline, client pressure, complex decisions. So temptations may include cutting corners, rushing work, or compromising your quality. So in this circumstance, always remember your signature or your opinion and work become your reputation. So I learned that standards must not change under pressure. And I learned also short-term relief can create a long-term damage. So never sacrifice quality because of pressure, because your name becomes your brand. So as say Chris, even when I'm teaching, as I'm working, when I was working as an auditor at BDO, I learned that people never remember how hard it was, but they always remember what you delivered. So in any difficult circumstance, come what may, always make sure you protect your brand, you protect your reputation. So that reputation, it came from being a high school teacher. People still associate with, say, Chris from high school. Then when I was a CTA lecturer, the quality in terms, if I go into a lecture, the way I want to deliver my lecture, I need to make sure it leaves a long lasting impression to my students, to my audience, even when we are doing currently as the institute, as we are doing our training, I need to make sure I give a detailed presentation so that people will remember that in future. So there were many lessons which I learned from there. So the major one, I simply summarize: never sacrifice quality because of pressure, because your name becomes your brand.
Wow, indeed, very powerful statement. They never sacrifice quality or as a result of pressure. So I would want us to touch on the role of discipline, consistency, resilience. How did these things play a role in your journey from those humble beginnings to this stage that you have reached?
All right. So they played everything. I learned that talent alone was never enough in my journey. Discipline kept me studying when I was tired. Consistency kept me moving even when progress felt slow. Resilience helped me recover from failure and rejection. I remember I shall explain, I didn't do well on my APC first attempt, but resilience helped me recover from failure and rejection. And there were seasons when I studied during the day. I remember when I was doing my CTA, during the day I was doing full time with Chartered Accountants Academy. So during the day from 8 to 3, usually it's 8 to 4, I'll be studying. Then from 4, I was working as, remember, I'd left my job because of the dream. So I was working as a taxi driver. That time you used to have what we call Via. They used to have what we call Toda, which is equivalent to the in-day in-drive. So there were seasons because of CTA. I remember the fees were around 1,500 and I was not working. So there were seasons where finances were difficult, seasons where pressure was overwhelming, but I kept moving one step at a time. And I've learned that success is usually not one big moment. It is more acts of discipline, repeated consistency over time.
Mm. Very much inspiring and encouraging there in terms of consistency and discipline. And were there moments that you felt like giving up? And how did you overcome? You mentioned that at some point you actually
Mm,
then failed APC, and I'm sure
mm.
you also spoke about how initially you had actually failed your O levels.
Yes.
Um, where have there been moments that you felt like giving up?
Yes, many times better. Remember when I failed my O levels, I was hurt deeply though. Uh, but it's a story for another day. I don't know with time. Then because my primary education, I did it in Wedza there. Then for my secondary, I transitioned from Wedza, a rural primary school, to a boarding school. And it was my first experience there. When I went to the boarding school, like that time, I think it was just a life lesson. Peer pressure sometimes can affect, you are now learning with kids who are coming from different backgrounds, others coming from better families. So, like, Mutrang, in their trunks, tags, etc. So I felt then, that's what I felt. My father was not doing enough. That was my feeling. So I became a bit careless. Say, he's not taking care of me, he's not being responsible. That was my thought. But I failed to realize that taking me to a boarding school on its own, it was enough to change my life. I realized later. So I was not much concerned. Then again, like isu state once wangovhara wobva watoenda kumusha. So like if the closing day is 21, like today on the 22nd, ndatova pabhasi kuenda kumusha. So partially it affected me. I thought I wanted to be like the other kids then. But I realized no, life it doesn't start at the same. My father was trying very hard, paying that fees, even taking me to a boarding school. So that time when we wrote our O level, I only passed one subject. It was only Bible knowledge. At least God with me on that. But I knew very well from my primary level, I was a bright student. I was not that much down. So when my father asked me, what do you think? So we had a one-on-one discussion after I collected my results with my father. What do you think you want to do? So in my mind, Shakando thought if I say I don't want to go further, I don't want further my education, was going to take me to the rural areas, definitely. Then I said, I want to try again. So that's when I repeated my O level. So that was the first time. Then the other time when I was driving taxis while studying my CTA, it was very exhausting. It was very exhausting. Remember the pressure of CTA, you are getting 10 marks. So that was very challenging for me. Then also when I failed my APC on my first attempt, it was another painful moment because by then people already expected a lot from me. Remember, when I was now doing my articles, I did my articles with BDO Zimbabwe, but I was seconded my first year to CAA as a tutor. Remember, they introduced what you call the academic article trainees. So I went to CAA. So when I went to CAA, because of my background in teaching now, I developed that passion for teaching. So Sir Chris became a popular name. So people were expecting more from me. Yet I was still a student like any other student. So when I failed my APC, I felt the pressure then. And I think one of the causes why I failed, I put too much pressure on myself. I was forgetting that I was just a student like any other student at that time. So I just wanted to go to, but because now in terms of teaching CTA, everyone will simply say, if you are facing any challenges, get in touch with Sir Chris. If you are facing any challenge, get in touch with Sir Chris. So for me, I put a lot of responsibility on myself, forgetting that I was still also a student. And remember, when you are working at a firm, it will be difficult finance-wise. It will be very challenging. So you have to do many hustles, do in drive part-time so that I supplement my income. I didn't want my kids to feel the same pressure. I wanted them to maintain a certain lifestyle we're living before. Every difficult moment forced me to reflect and improve. And I learned not to let failure define my identity. Instead of asking why me, is this season teaching me? So with support from my family, mentors, colleagues, and students, and most students are saying, Sir Chris, we know you can make it. Also helped me continue. So sometimes other people believed in me before I fully believed in myself.
Wow. Um, very much encouraging and challenging in terms of how someone or people around can also learn on how best to not to give up. So in terms of you've got as part of your journey, you became a chartered accountant student society president some 2 years ago now, is it?
Yes.
In the
It's
previous
one.
term.
Yeah.
In
Yes,
the
thank.
previous term.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what lessons in terms of leadership did you gain? I mean, definitely you are a leader because even in terms of the numbers of people who were keen on joining this conversation, some of them are your previous students that you taught over the years. So please, may you share with us some of the lessons that you learned through your journey in terms of leadership?
Thank you. So serving as CAS president from it was 2023 to 2024, and I continued in 2024 to 2025. So it was more than a leadership position. To me, it was a responsibility to build a culture of integrity, accountability, sustainability, and student impact. The vision of CAS, our vision as the leadership then, was to ensure that CAS activities became financially sustainable while still creating memorable and meaningful experience for students. So one of the major issues in terms of integrity and governance, as I was the leader, we managed to strengthen integrity in the CAS operations. We managed to improve record keeping and accountability. We also promoted transparency in activities and we wanted to build a culture of responsibility. And also that time, in terms of financial sustainability, I wanted to ensure most events we held as CAS should generate a surplus. So we decided to practice financial discipline, and we focused on sustainability over short-term success. So we wanted to link every activity to long-term value creation. So in terms of student impact, CAS is one of the main sponsors of what we call the Vimbiso. So Vimbiso pays fees for students who come from uh, underprivileged backgrounds. And remember my history, I shared I was also taking care of my cousins, etc. So I wanted to support the Vimbiso initiative, helped create funding for those less privileged students. But at the same time, there's a conflict. You have to deliver memorable and engaging student events. So I wanted to balance the experience with the financial responsibility. So in terms of the leadership lesson, number one, leadership is a stewardship. If you leave systems they outlive the leaders. Integrity can build sustainable success. And for me, great leadership creates lasting impact. I remember when we took over, CAS was not even making any surplus. So they were failing to contribute anything towards the Vimbiso. So for me, profitability was never about making money for its own sake. It was now about creating sustainability, supporting students through Vimbiso, and ensuring every activity created that long-term value. So I remember in my first term, we managed to contribute more than 7,000 to Vimbiso, and again in my second term, almost the same amount. Previously, maybe because of COVID, etc., the previous committee, then maybe because of circumstances, we led in different circumstances, it was difficult to have those surplus. So I think for me as leader, we eventually leave office, but the systems, the values and the culture we build, they continue to influence generation after us. And I think I've observed the current committee, they've been contributing significantly again towards the Vimbiso, and I'm happy that we left something, a legacy to that committee.
Mm. Impactful indeed. And so, what advice, as we still speak about students themselves, what advice would you want to give to any students, young professionals who may feel behind in life or their career progression? What advice can you give?
Thank you, Beda. I would tell them not to compare timelines. Remember, I became a CA at 40, so life is different for everyone. Some people begin with opportunities, others never had. So what matters is not where you start, but where you keep moving forward. Then failure or delay does not mean the journey is over. I failed exams, worked in non-professional jobs, restarted studies multiple times, and still became a chartered accountant. So sometimes your greatest advantage comes from the very struggles you are trying to escape. So stay disciplined, keep learning, and trust the process.
Mm. Wow, I love that. Your greatest advantage can actually come from your greatest disadvantage. So, how important do you also see or view mentorship or support from others during the CA journey? Maybe particularly from your own specific journey.
Okay. For me, I feel mentorship is extremely important. I believe no one succeeds alone. So for me, my parents, my teachers, mentors, colleagues, friends, they all played different roles at different stages. Professionally, before I go to professionally, people like Nyasha Chakuma, the current ICAS technical director, she was my mentor when I was now a tutor at CAA. and Mr. Makaya at BDO. These people, they helped me shape my technical and professional growth significantly. Their guidance sharpened my confidence and thinking. I also learned the importance of encouragement. Sometimes one conversation or one person believing in you can change your direction. And I remember when I was at CAA then, when say Chris was now popular, I always go to Nyasha and seek for advice. And I remember she always told me, Chris, believe in yourself. You can do it. The students have put their trust in you. Think what you can do differently. And each and every time you go into a lecture, how are you going to improve? How are you going to make that someone will see things differently in your sessions? And I remember when I was at BDO, I was fortunate to be included in the technical committee, BDO technical committee, when I was in my first year or second year that time. So sometimes I would be given opportunities to make presentations. Like if there is a new standard, then can you do ABCD? After I do a presentation, sometimes, people will tell you, Chris, you've done a great job. Then Mr. Makaya, you call me in private. Then you say, Chris, chicha ongo cheat. So that kind of thing, you now assist me, Chris. You're dealing with CAs, isn't it? You're dealing with our students who are already done that. So you need something which is impactful. What lessons were you telling people? So it helped me to sharpen my understanding, my knowledge, even the way I could interpret the standards. Up to now, people appreciate and understand. Say Chris can interpret any standard, any audit issue, any module at CTA. If it comes to CTA, even any text issues, I can now interpret with easy. But the mentors now can assist you in that particular manner whereby they tell you the truth. And I loved the fact that they would call you in private. Both Nyasha, Mr. Makaya, I want to mention those two mainly. They would call me in private. Then Chris, the students, they feel you've done well. But is there no way you can do it better? So each time, even when I did my presentation at BDO, Mr. Makaya would call me again in his office. Chris, and this was Farage Whiteash. So, you'd so those moments, times helped me to become a better person. Now, when I interpret the standards, when I'm explaining or teaching, or even now when we are doing corporate training as we do as ICAS, people appreciate the nature of the delivery because I'm now doing something which is practical. And I give that back to my mentors. They did a very good job on that.
Wow. Indeed, we all need support and other people within our journey for us to be more successful. And so, now that you're a chartered accountant, what impact do you hope to make in the profession and in society?
All right, thank you for that. For me, the impact I want to make in the society, I have a soft spot, especially for the less privileged. I need to make sure each and everyone gets the opportunity. I think the pressures, the challenges I faced, I feel as the world we should do things differently. We should take the little from what we have. We can change lives. We can change other people. There are many people who are struggling. Not only that, so sometimes what can we assist with? Instead of giving someone a fish, can we at least give someone a rod, assist them in able to become self-sufficient? Because ndikauya nhasi ndikakupa something, mangwana uchange uchida futi. So what can we do to make that's on the society perspective? Then as chartered accountants, as we do our information, there's a basic misconception whereby people just think that accountants are just number crunchers. That's a misconception. So many people think accounting is only about numbers, calculations, compliance, but in reality, accounting is about problem solving, communication, leadership, ethics, decision making. So a good accountant, I think, as accountants, we must understand people, we must understand systems, we must understand strategy, risk, not just debit and credit. Accounting should also create trust in organization and the economy, and we should also influence governance, sustainability, and accountability in the economy.
Oh, very much impactful there you shall be. And we have no doubt in you, Sir Chris. So as we round up, just gonna read a few comments that we had there in the chat from individuals. I know someone spoke about how you came from baking and now you are baking chartered accountants. They
Mm.
uh, and yeah, it's Crispin. It says you're now baking new CAs. Keep it up, Chris. Gracious Tauseni. Well said, very inspiring. And someone else there says powerful nuggets that you are giving. And Lloyd Mujuru is asking, what if you are in government and you passed your CTA? What about the issue of hours? Will you retire on government to start to search a firm, or may you kindly assist? Um, I know maybe that one is, it might need to be quite in depth there. Maybe you can then just tie it up with a message that you would like to leave with aspiring accountants attending today's session.
Okay, I think one of the other aspect, also a lecturer with Elchard Business School, on a part-time basis. We now have got what we call public sector professional accountants. So Lloyd, I think most government institutions, they are now starting to have hours training offices, but you can get further detail from our educational department, Lloyd. If you send our email to education@icas.org.zw, they can assist you on that. But there are institutions in government who are now doing those hours. We have public sector professional accountants, but if you want to pursue the CAZ route, not the PSPAZ route, then you can find a training after you pass your CTA. Find a training office. Maybe we now have the tip, we have got the top. You can join any of the either audit firms or even entities like your INSCOs, there are many entities who also provide the training hours if you don't want to take the PSPAZ route. But both routes, you can be a PSPAZ, you can be a CAZ, but mostly CAZ currently is in the private sector, then PSPAZ is in the public sector. Then another important thing, then I think for me, lessons I've drawn and learned: never give up, keep trying, keep the dream alive. You can be whom you want to be.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris. Would those be your parting words, or you have additional parting words? I
I
see
think,
you've
right.
got a lot of people who would aspire to be like you, to have the courage, to have the tenacity that you had. What parting words would you give them so that they can also follow suit?
All right. So for me, the most important things, never underestimates the power of persistence. Your current situation is not your final destination. Be willing to learn, restart, sacrifice, and grow. Sometimes the journey will humble you. Remember, I told you I failed my CTA. Sorry, I didn't fail my CTA. I failed my APC. Sometimes the journey will humble you before it elevates you. But if you remain disciplined, consistent, opportunities will eventually come. Most importantly, do not become a copy of someone else's success story. Build your own journey with authenticity, integrity, and purpose. And I always use this quote, create your own brand. Wherever you are working, create your own brand, your personal brand. For me, I created my own personal brand. So up to now, people now, whenever they will talk about a lecture, they talk about Sir Chris. So I created my own. From being a high school teacher, I always told people I don't want to be an ordinary teacher. I wanted to be an extraordinary teacher. And I remember very well Mr. Mbirimu, who used to be one of my high school headmasters. He used to say, if you are teaching people, let's say you're teaching 500 people, every night they'll be discussing about you. So it's either they are blessing you or they are cursing you. So choose what's best for you. And I always say this, a good name is always better than money. From the biblical perspective, a good name is better than money. In consolidation, whenever there is a business purchase, you are going to pay a price for goodwill.
Wow, thank you so much once again. I can never thank you enough for such an inspiring conversation. I'm sure everyone, as they were seeing the flyer and the communication to say that this series would be on your journey, they were really wondering and waiting to hear what it is that you had. And I'm sure everyone here can confirm that this has been indeed a powerful, motivational conversation. And to just finish off as your words, your journey will humble you before it elevates you. So if you're seeking for elevation, know that along the way, circumstances that humble you are should be most welcome, and your current position also should not define where you can end up. So thank you so much once again, and thank you everyone who joined this conversation. We hope to see you again in the next series of Accountants Breaking Barriers. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.